Good morning. Here it's Saturday, end of the week, right? So yesterday was such a rainy day, wasn't it? A lot of rain, and even a lot this morning too. Um, and I think tomorrow more rain. But the ground outside is very dry, so I guess we need that for sure. Uh, Good morning, Dora. So, it's spring. We're going to get some rain. We're going to get some sun. We're going to get a little bit of everything. Um, I'm still trying to get onto that schedule of, um, weather driven planning. So uh, I keep putting things off thinking I'm going to do them on a certain day, and then the weather doesn't cooperate. So I need to remember you got to you got to just do it when you have a good day and not think you're going to, oh, I'll just wait for tomorrow because tomorrow's maybe going to be cold um, or a lot of rain. So this weekend probably not going to get a lot of yard work done, but that's okay. All right. So let's see. What have we been talking about? So this has been a week we've been talking a lot about kind of the foundations of yoga and um, the different sort of um, paths. So different uh, branches or limbs, in this sort of the yoga tree, um, and how that all kind of fits together and breaks down. Um, let's maybe we'll mention quickly um, the the different styles of yoga, right? That you may have heard of. Um, so when we talk about that, we're really talking about asana, right? Um, there are I mean, yoga in general is following the same kind of philosophy uh, to a greater or lesser extent. Um, I would say all of the schools of yoga sort of go back to the Yoga Sutras. They may interpret them a little bit differently, um, but for our purposes, it's all kind of the same. Um, but the styles of asana are a bit different. So what's curious about asana in particular is that there isn't any really set form for that. Um, there is hatha yoga, which is, but it's a very sort of general term, and it just kind of covers a lot. There isn't any set hatha routine, let's say. So you may have heard of different types of yoga having sort of a format. And in this country, it's been very popular to bring that. Um, so you may go to a studio that does what they call Ashtanga yoga, which is right. We already learned that that's the name for the whole system. But in these terms, if you were to see like a yoga studio that said Ashtanga yoga studio, they would be doing a particular type of asana practice, which is formatted in a certain way. And in this particular type of practice, it goes, um, it's set, right? It's a set plan, and you work through it over the course of years, right? You start out with a certain working with the teacher, right? You sort of work to your abilities, and then the teacher would say, okay, you can add a pose, add another pose, as you get stronger, more flexible, more familiar with the sequence, right? Sequences, that's the word I was looking for. So Ashtanga is a very typically very strenuous practice. There's a lot of sun salutations, a lot of heat building in the body. Um, it's very physical, very athletic. There aren't a lot of places around here that do that. Some in Philadelphia. There's one that I've been down to in Milford, of all places. And it's a very nice studio. But one thing that they've been doing, you can find a lot of online classes for that, which it's a little tricky to do that because you don't really um, have that ability to be physically adjusted or to be helped into a pose. But it's a pretty good. You can get a pretty good overview if you are interested. That's one thing to do. So then Ashtanga, um, it kind of started with this guy called Krishnacharya. Um, he's not sort of responsible for the format as it is now, but he kind of started this idea of yoga practice as medicine, as a therapy. So he would, you would go to him. He was a sort of traditional Indian doctor, long time ago, maybe 1800 something. Um, and he would say, okay, so here's what you need to do. You need to eat these things. You need to do this type of lifestyle changes. And then here are asana. Do these asana, do them every day, whatever. And in this way, Ayurvedic doctors, traditional Indian doctors, and I think, traditional medicine is similar in all cultures in this, that they're looking much more at our entire life and how that affects our health. What are we eating? What are we doing? What are our lifestyle practices? And how can they support our health or damage our health? That is something that in Western medicine we've completely discarded, right? We go for the surgery and the medicine and different things like that first, instead of, you know, I feel like we get the cart before the horse, right? Uh, make sure your cart is in good shape, right? Before you add the horse. Uh, but so that was, literally movement and physical practice was part of uh, a therapeutic plan. Um, and then, so Ashtanga kind of came out of that um, prescription. So it became sort of a standard of, okay, so these are a series of exercises. If you do these, you're going to improve your body, improve your health, improve all of these things. In kind of a general way. So rather than having to meet this guy and go through it, you could just follow this path of these series of exercises. So from that, then we have in this country, we ended up with I'm blanking on the name of it now. So Bikram, right? Okay, Bikram. So the hot yoga that was very popular kind of in the 90s and early 2000s, I guess, in big cities and things, was this Bikram yoga, which is this guy who took some of this Ashtanga plan, made his own sequence from it, and then kind of packaged it and sold it as a commodity to studios in big cities. And, so in New York or in places like that, there would be, 100 Bikram studios, super heated, um, very, very demanding athletic sort of practice. Um, and, kind of like a multi-level marketing situation where the teachers had to be certified by this guy and you bought a franchise, and it was kind of the McDonald's of yoga, if you would. And unfortunately, that was a lot of people's only um, exposure maybe to yoga. So yoga became this thing, also very expensive, right? So it became this thing that was really only available or people believed it was really only available to sort of rich, urban people with a lot of time on their hands who just wanted to get into shape, and kind of buy into this philosophy per se of, not philosophy like we think, but philosophy like, kill yourself. Kill yourself working hard and then you'll feel better. Which, not unsurprisingly, was very popular in this country. So then, of course, Bikram fell down. If you haven't heard about it, it's a whole big thing. He, was sexually inappropriate with people, stealing money, doing all the things that these big, charismatic leaders always seem to fall down from. So that was over, which is good because the one thing that I remember about Bikram was that he tried to trademark yoga, and his routine of yoga, he wanted to make it trademarked or copyrighted or something so that no one else could use those yoga poses, which of course we know is just downright ridiculous because these poses have been around for thousands and thousands of years. They don't belong to anyone in particular. They are for everyone to use. So um, then there are a few others. Iyengar is another popular sort of yoga. I don't know if you're going to find, you might find an Iyengar studio. Um, a lot of people, that's just a style that they might have at their studio. And Iyengar is known for, Iyengar was a guy, right, who sort of developed his own thing. So if you can imagine, India at a certain time in its history having these sort of competing schools of yoga, and each one saying that they sort of had the corner on how to do things, but it's really just different flavors of the same product. um, so Iyengar is known for alignment. They're very alignment based. So in an Iyengar studio, you might not hear a lot of this feeling that the pose should adapt to your body. It's more adapt your body into this pose, and that a pose must be done in a certain way with a certain type of alignment, um, to a greater or lesser extent. So they use a lot of props. You'll always see a lot of blocks and straps, and they have some very specific props. Like they have a chair with um, no support in the back. So it's kind of like a folding chair, but with a big space. And people will do a back bend under with the chair to support them, and different things they use. And they have some very specific props for that too. Um, the idea being to get your body into that place, and hold it. So um, that's one way. And some people are very drawn to that. One of the things about Iyengar is that you're working to get your body into certain shapes, and maybe using supports and things to get there, um, which is appealing to some people. I think a lot of people are very drawn to making the shapes in their body and frustrated because they aren't there yet, right? So Iyengar is a way to sort of um, work on those, getting into those specific postures if that is a goal for you. Um, Kriya, no, yeah, Kriya. I guess Kriya yoga. So there is another. Oh no, I'm sorry, Kundalini yoga. Right, Kundalini yoga is another type of yoga, which is. So we talked about bhakti yesterday, or maybe the day before. Bhakti is this sort of ecstatic and joyous kind of devotional yoga. And Kundalini is sort of a asana bhakti hybrid. So it's very much devotional. They do a lot of singing and dancing, kirtan, type of chanting and things. But it's also very physical. They have practices called kriyas that are um, movements. And one of the things that we do in our warm up is some kriya. Now we don't do it as much as they do. So, like the thing where we bring our arms up overhead, and this is from that the movement. It's very movement based, and but you would do it a lot. Like you would be doing this for like 5 minutes. So it's a very demanding practice. A lot of breathing, a lot of activity. Um, it's it's very exciting. It's a very um, uplifting type of practice. And so it's called Kundalini because Kundalini is, we have really never spoken about Kundalini, and we're just going to touch on it briefly. Kundalini is our sort of um, energetic portion of the spirit. And Kundalini is said to reside in the base of the spine. Um, and the practice is to move that Kundalini up through the spine, up to the crown of the head. And that raising your Kundalini is raising your vibration, raising your energy in the body. The life force is sort of getting that life force moving. And these practices are kind of designed to do that. It's a whole big thing, right? And if you're interested in it, there's a lot to read and a lot to look into in that. Yeah. So, and for some people, that's very appealing. They're very interested in that kind of deep immersion, right? Kind of a whole immersion into the process of Kundalini. So let me think. Did we cover? Yeah, I mean, and then so I'm trying to think of studios that you might come across. So so you've got Ashtanga. Vinyasa is kind of Ashtanga, but not as strict. So there's no, typically speaking, vinyasa, and vinyasa is a lot of what we do. It's more of a generic term for yoga that is movement based, that doesn't have a strict sequence. It can change anytime. You aren't really bound to anybody's idea of how it should go. Vinyasa could be heated or not heated. Sometimes it might be in a heated room. Um, the other type of studio you might find is kind of what I call old school yoga studio, right? Which is hatha yoga. And it's stationary poses, not a lot of transition in between. We do some of that too. And you might find those are generally what you're going to find a lot of unheated, right? So I think a lot of people that are teaching vinyasa are, the expectation is that it will be a heated studio, which of course doesn't work if you're teaching in community centers and things like that. So if it's a class that moves or does, moves its location and doesn't have a lot of consistency maybe in the location and the then a hatha. It's probably going to be hatha, which is just what we do. So all of these things would be familiar to you anywhere that you would go to take a class. It's all just different flavors of the same ice cream, right? Yoga ice cream. There's 31 flavors. There's 131 flavors, and everything in between. But and when you go into studios, they probably aren't going to touch on a lot of the other stuff that we talk about because they don't really have time for that. They aren't really getting into that. But you better believe that if it's a reputable studio and they are really following their practices, then they are practicing some of these things. I hope so, because if not, then what you're going to is basically a gym where they do yoga exercises, which is not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you want, but you're missing a big part of the experience if that's all they're offering. So, the other thing too is, and a lot of people do this, I've certainly done this. I have my own personal practice, but I may go to a studio for a physical practice, for an asana class, because it's fun or interesting. It's nice to practice with a group of people in person. Um, I have missed that. And, but on the other hand, I also feel kind of apprehensive about going back to that. Um, I was looking, my husband sent me a link to uh, a little tool that they had. I think it was on the New York Times, uh, to help you gauge um, the risk factor of an activity that you might want to do. How risky is it for you in a time of pandemic to do certain things? And they would ask you where you were going, how long you would be there, was it indoor, outdoor, all of these things. And, each one of these things had a value, a number value. And of course, the higher the number, then the higher the risk. And not unsurprisingly, indoor activities of longer than an hour, um, in close proximity with other people, where there was a lot of breathing and, maybe some strenuous activity, um, ranked very, very high. So, and yoga class, right, is about as high as you can get. I cringe really to think of some of the classes that I've been in so close, within mats, maybe this far apart from somebody else's, to the point where in a hot yoga class, people were sweating. They would move into warrior two and they would drip a bunch of sweat over on your mat, which I didn't think was, I thought was not very nice back then. Right now, it makes me terrified. Even vaccinated, I feel terrified by that. So, I think there may be some practices that change in going forward with yoga classes. You certainly would not want, and exercise classes in general, right? You would not want anyone to ever become ill from a practice that is supposed to bring us health. That would be, the worst thing, right? The worst thing of all. So, practicing carefully, but you may see in the next few months, right? Things may, begin to open up. I really don't know. Everyone, again, is going to have to use their good sense and, what they want to do for this sort of stuff. But I've been talking with my kids and thinking a little bit about how things may be changing in the future and how um, we probably won't be going back to having everything the same as it was. Um, and we'll see how that works out. But anyway, yoga has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It will be around thousands of years. The way we practice it, where we practice it, how we do it, those things may change, but they're all, again, just something that we have put together from this sort of great, sea of choices. We've selected the ones that work for us. In the future, they may be different. Certainly, the way people practice now is different than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and will be continuing to change with the times, as it should be. All right, some asana. Sitting up tall and breathe. I picked the wrong thing here. My knee is good. It's much better, but it's still kind of not great. So I don't know why I picked these pants, because it's right on my knee, but what are you gonna do, right? Breathe in, breathe out. In through the nose, back out through the nose. Try to relax through the shoulders. Give yourself some space for expansion through the chest. See if you can notice the side body and the back moving a little too. Try to relax as you breathe to give them some room. And then we're going to walk the hands out in front. Back up, hands behind you, squeeze the shoulders together, gaze up. Back up to your seat, arms wide. Deep breath in, then exhale, hands together. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Interlace the fingers, lift the hands, we're gazing up. And then arms down by your side. Inhale, lift. And lower. Lift. And lower. Once more, lifting up. Right hand by your side, reach across. Switch. Back up. Lift the shoulders, roll back. And forward. Right hand on left knee, left arm behind you, sit up tall, deep breath, take a twist. Back to center, switch sides, inhale, twist. And back to center. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. Sitting up tall. Take your breath, and then we're just leaning forward. Feet can be close or a little further out if that's a better angle for you. and then back up. Let's bring both legs out in front. Take a deep breath and fold. If your hamstrings are tight, maybe have a little bend. That's fine. Moving back up, point and flex the feet. Rotate through the ankles, one way and the other. We're going to bend the right knee, kind of hug it in here, sitting up tall. And then lowering the knee out to the side. You can have the right foot up close to the thigh, or you could bring it up on top. So this is, this may be a lot. Maybe it doesn't feel great here. Maybe there's a lot of pressure on your hamstrings. So don't feel like you have to do this. But if you do this, know that you probably won't fold as much because you do have all this pressure pushing down on the hamstring. There's no way for it to bend or flex at all. So we're going to fold forward. See, I'm not folding that much at all because that hamstring is at its limit. But that's okay. Sometimes you want to stretch the hamstring, and today I'm going to do that. What you don't want to do, right, is overdo it. So I was talking to you about Ashtanga, the Ashtanga yoga practice. So it is a very athletic practice. You do a lot of poses. You do it 6 days a week. Or a very serious practitioner who's working through both the primary and maybe the first or second series. It can take up to 2 hours a day, right? So it's a very intense practice. Coming back up. And one issue that they can have from all the forward folds and the hamstring stretch is they actually get an inflammation at the base of your rear end, right? Where the attachment for the hamstring is. So the hamstring attaches here and at where the hip bone sort of meets. We're going to switch sides. And you can actually have, inflammation in that attachment, which is not good, right? So we definitely don't want to put too much pressure on that hamstring. Bend, lower the knee, and then either way, this way or this way, and then fold forward. I like to think of the hamstring as the hamstring is protecting, right? It's very tight. It's a very strong muscle. It's protecting the rest of that, deep structure by limiting what you can do, how far you can go, and what the mischief that you can get up to with your own body, right? So respect it. Respect the boundaries that it's setting within your body, and work gently with that. Don't try to fight it or be rough. Coming back up. Both legs out in front. Another fold. Inhale and exhale. Come on back up. Let's bring the legs wide. We've got toes pointing up, and then walk the hands out on the legs or out in front, keeping toes pointing up. Come on back up. Let's bring the feet about mat width apart and lean forward again. Back up, bend your knees, lower down, or rocking back. Getting on your back on the mat, however you want to. Take a few breaths. Maybe walk the feet out to the edges, let the knees bump in the center. And then we're going to bring right ankle on left knee. For supine pigeon, maybe pressing the knee away, maybe bringing that left leg in close. Switch sides. And whatever you do on the one, we'll do on the other. Setting both feet down. Let's get ready for bridge. So we're going to do one bridge, and then we'll do a supported bridge. So if you got your block, just bring it somewhere where you can reach it easily. Heels back, close to the body. Hands and feet pressed down, lifting up. lower back down, take a breath, and then we're lifting up again. Finding a place for block. Relax and breathe. If you want, you can bring the knees into the chest or extend the legs. And back up. Remove the block. Let's bring soles of the feet together. Knees apart. Relax and breathe. And then we're just moving into Shavasana. So you could stay where you are. You could extend the legs. Whatever is comfortable and relaxing for you today. Keep that breath moving through the body. Keeping just a steady feeling of peace and calm, focusing maybe on the breath. So we talk about different yogas, different styles of yoga, different types. Know that, right? All of them, in all universes, we are one. We are all one. None of these are better than any others. None are any more valid than any others. There is a wide choice and a wide variety because we are all different. Even though we are all one, we all have our personalities, right? Our ways of doing things. And rather than struggle with a path that is too steep for you, right? Think of it like going for a hike. We're all going for a hike, but some of us may not be ready for those steep challenges. Some of us may be ready to go rock climbing. We're going to boulder our way up that mountain. But some of us aren't interested in that, right? We either physically don't feel up to that, or it just doesn't appeal to us. There's a different way. The idea is to just keep on hiking, right? No matter which path looks right to you, you're all going to get there in the end. What we don't want is for people to feel discouraged and like, this isn't for me because I can't do these things that this other person is doing. Well, that's doesn't matter. It's immaterial what someone else is doing. We're all working for the same, in the same way, to the same place. For some people, it could be, the philosophy is the stumbling point. I've certainly met people in the yoga world that are very uncomfortable or unsure about some of the mind practices. They don't get it. They're confused. Um, that part is they don't really know about the philosophy. They've never read about it. It's a mystery to them. But they know the asana and they practice the asana. Um, that's not good or bad. It just is. Everyone has their own way of finding the truth. So we're all seeking. Um, some people, taking a more intellectual route is the way to go. For some people, it's a more physical route. For some people, it's a more emotional or devotional route. Um, we all have to work within um, our specialty, right? What really resonates with us? What makes us sing? Um, there is a yoga for that. There is a path that will set you on fire, right? That will um, really pique your interest. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking because it's out there. Um, again, this practice has not been around for thousands of years um, because people can't figure it out because it's mysterious or complicated. It's none of those things. If it feels like that, then maybe you just want to try a different path, a different route, um, and see how that one fits for you. When you're ready, then moving and making your way up, maybe to a seat. But you could also stay on the mat if you want to for meditation. Bring hands together, breath in and out. Thank you for taking time this morning for yoga, for being on your mat, and for sharing with me and the rest of us here. I hope you have a very good Saturday and a lovely Sunday and just a generally productive or relaxing weekend. Namaste. Okay. Sitting up or laying down. Ready for meditation, keeping that peaceful state of mind. Working. Okay, so we talked about these really three sort of mental states that we might go through in meditation. The first one is dhyana, which is that focus, right? That's how we start. We focus on something. We focus on an image, a thought, a mantra, something to keep our attention here, focused in the moment, not thinking about lunch or what I got to do tomorrow or anything, but what's here. It can be something, whatever you want to do to bring your attention here. That's your start. Dharana Dhyana is the first. Dharana is the next, which is when we start to let go of that. It kind of happens unconsciously, where maybe we realize for a moment that our attention has drifted from this, but yet it is not focused on anything else. It's just nothing, right? Everything is, and then of course, once you've realized it, then it's over. You're back to dharana, right? So dharana, dhyana, they work together and they kind of, you go back and forth. Samadhi is the last, right? Samadhi is that state where beyond dhyana, dharana, all these words, is this prolonged state. It can be a prolonged state, but it's where you are, there's nothing, no time, no nothing, and you're not even aware, right? So that's sort of the third thing, and you might slip in, you might slip out. Generally, samadhi is, you experience a great feeling of peace and contentment and um, well-being from that. Um, this is why people take drugs, right? I mean, I'm not going to say that's the only reason people take drugs, but one of the reasons that people, because it shifts their consciousness. They can get into this state of what samadhi. Now, it's not a real state, right? For when you're taking drugs and under the form of, you're under the influence of substances. It's a sort of a false one, right? You're kind of there, but you're physically impaired. So it's not quite the same thing, but it's a similar feeling, right? Um, so but you can see why it would be, right, a nice feeling, right? But we don't stay there long. Then we come back, and then we kind of go back down. Then we go back up. Um, Advanced practitioners might stay there, for a little bit, but again, samadhi is, it's a goal, but you might not achieve it for a very long time. You may only achieve it for a second, but the samadhi is an awakening, right? If you have achieved it, if you've gotten to that spot, that is the point where all of this makes sense, right? For a moment. And then you come back out again, right? And then everything's, but it's a, once you've been there, you want to go back. And you're not, that's our goal, right? Our goal with yoga is to get rid of that fear, to get rid of our fear of what's next, our fear of um, samadhi, right? Samadhi is that joining of everything together, and that is kind of what's next. When you kind of maybe have touched in, it's like, when you're really fearful of something, but once you've seen it and maybe experienced it in a little bit, it's not so scary anymore. Um, that's what we're going for. But if you haven't gotten there, you don't feel like you've ever been there, don't worry about it. I mean, some people never get there. Maybe it takes a long time. Maybe you think you've been there, but it doesn't really matter, right? That's the goal. We're getting there. And the beautiful thing about is that the process is so beneficial every step of the way. Even if you never reach the samadhi, all the things you're doing to get there are so mentally supportive and healthy, and really strengthening, and it makes you strong and resilient, your mind, your senses, all of these things. It's the best. What can I tell you? It's the best. I can you tell I like meditation? I'm a big proponent. So again, if you struggle with meditation, if um, you know send me an email. Let me know. I can help you find some different techniques, find a different way to go about it. There are so many different ways to meditate, different paths to go through, different sort of mental structures to put you in the frame of mind. And again, just like all the different types of yoga, there are different types of meditation. Not everyone is going to resonate with you. It's not going to feel right. Um, you know, but it's out there. It's available to you, and I would love it if everyone could find one that works. Okay, so let's do this. Relaxing, steady. I gotta set my timer. I'm getting so excited about talking about it that I I'm not even set up to do it. Okay. Sitting up tall, give yourself plenty of room to breathe, relax, gentle focus, but that, right, concentration in a peaceful way. Okay. Um, Now we're done for your Saturday. Good morning, Ruth. So enjoy your day. It's probably gonna rain. Probably gonna rain tomorrow. That's okay. Stay in and do something fun. And I'll be back on Monday.